So the thing that when it comes to stress, it has to do with our capacity to deal with what we're facing, right? So it stresses when the demand exceeds capacity. So when we're feeling like we don't have the ability, we're not calm enough, we're not in a good mindset, then the slightest thing is going to push us over the edge, right? And make us feel overwhelmed and stressed. So when we feel like that the stress exceeds capacity, then what we need to do is increase our capacity. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. And I will have time to answer questions in the end, or if you have any questions, you can just feel free to ask your questions. But like I said, stress mostly depends on your reaction to the stress. It's not really an external thing. Like something like this used to create a lot of stress for me. It was very overwhelming because I didn't have the experience. I didn't have a lot of experience talking to people. And so just the idea of coming here and talking in front of people would be really, really overwhelming. But since I've been doing it, and I have a podcast as well where I interview a lot of people, just even that process of interviewing people has helped me get more familiar with talking to people, and it's not as overwhelming for me. So my capacity has expanded, and therefore it's not as overwhelming for me. And like I said, it has less to do with what's happening outside of you and more to do with what's going on inside and how we're thinking, the dialogue we have about it. Kind of like with you, I have to make a cake. I have to clean my house. I can never show up to somebody's house empty handed, right? That is your internal dialogue causing that. Nobody sat and said that to you, that you have to do that. And so we create a lot of stress for ourselves because of our internal dialogue. And that's what I want us to be more aware of going into the new year this year. And of course, stress impacts every area of our lives and worsens the symptoms of anxiety. So if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're overwhelmed and you're stressed, your anxiety will become worse. But also managing it can impact every area of our lives too. Stress is the number one killer for globally, I think, not even just in the United States. We're living lives that aren't aligned with how we're supposed to be living our lives. And so that is really putting a lot of stress on our capacity. And we need to focus on how can we manage that. But I also want to say that not all stress is bad. Stress has gotten a really bad rap, that we're supposed to eliminate stress from our lives. There's no way you're going to ever eliminate all the stressors in your life. That's just not possible. Stress can be used as fuel to energize us to do things. For example, when I go work out and I'm lifting weights, I'm putting stress on my body. That stress is breaking down my muscles, but at the same time, that reparation of the muscles builds muscle. So stress is not always a bad thing. It can actually create resiliency for us. Putting myself in situations like this, I mean, I could avoid it and say, I don't need that stress. But the more I do it, the stronger I become, the more experience I have. So it's not a matter of like never having any of the stress, right? And so it's really important for us to understand that it's not the stress that's bad, it's our interpretation of the event, it's how we're processing it. And then also, the reason stress is a bad thing is because we allow it to build up. We allow it to build up so much over time and it becomes chronic stress. So when we're under chronic stress constantly, that does wear on our organs. It does create wear and tear and create sickness for us. And this is why it's the number one killer. Our body is able, like I said, to handle short-term stress. It's able to handle the weight that I'm lifting weights, right? And then it gives me a chance to go and repair. It's the same thing as being under chronic fight or flight. So if I'm running away from a bear or a tiger and I'm able to survive and go hide in my cave and then bring down my cortisol levels and calm myself down, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm able to kind of build that up and be strong again, and my body is able to repair itself. And if I'm healthy mentally and physically and my body is able to handle that, then it's not going to create long-term issues. But if I'm under constant stress where I wake up in the morning, the alarm clock goes off and I'm running late, I'm going, and there's no way to calm down, and then I'm rushing into work and then I'm facing all this traffic, and then I rush into work and I'm given, like, my boss is yelling at me because I'm late, and then I have all this work to do, and then do what I need to do. And then I get back in my car and I'm facing the afternoon commute traffic. And then I go home and the husband's yelling and the kids are demanding. It's like I go to bed wired, right? There's no chance for me to ever calm down, and then I wake up and the same thing starts again tomorrow. That's chronic stress. That level of stress is going to cause damage. That level of stress puts a strain on your heart. It puts a strain on every organ on your body and will create sickness and disease. They will say a lot of the diseases that we're dealing with today are stress related, and it creates inflammation in our body. So more than ever, we need to learn how to manage our own reactions to that. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it. And I think it was a really good topic starting the new year, because a lot of us just, it's like that whole Groundhog Day. Every single day is the same thing, right? It's just getting up, stress, 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 and then going back to sleep, and we're starting the next day. So like I said, short-term stress can build resilience if you're young and your body is able to recover. But if it's chronic stress, it will create damage. And living in constant stress, living in constant stress reduces your body's ability to recover quickly over time. So over time, it will end up impacting your ability to even deal with it. So we talked about that. And the reason I'm making it sound like this is such an overwhelming thing, but we do have the ability to do something about it. There are a lot of different things we can do, and I'm going to talk about that. It starts with our thoughts, though. If you're working on changing your thoughts, you're telling yourself, it's okay. I don't need to build that cake. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can go to somebody's house, and the world's not going to end if I show up empty-handed. But the world's also not going to end if you don't end up cleaning your house before you leave the house, right? The world's not going to end if you say something and it wasn't exactly what you meant to say. It's all about controlling the negative thoughts that gets triggered. These are called automatic negative thoughts. There's a psychiatrist that calls them ants. So we're supposed to squash the ants because it's automatic negative thoughts, right? So focus on that. It's like a tape recorder that clicks in as soon as something happens, and it's based on programming that has happened when we were like as young as 6 or 7 years old. We end up recording all the negative thoughts that we've heard over the years, and then that becomes part of our own internal negative thought. So have any of you ever been like bullied or criticized or made fun of when you were younger? Like, okay. Do you remember when they stopped bullying you or saying those negative things to you? Like, how old were you when this was happening?
Oh, when I was like in second grade.
Okay, so for some people, I don't know if this happened to you, but that bully probably stopped bullying you in second grade, right? But what happens for some of us is we take those negative things that they said to us and we start saying them to ourselves. Like, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I can't do this. I'm such a loser. I'm such a failure. All the things that people have said over the years, it becomes part of our script. And the thing is, it's all subconscious. It gets triggered automatically and it runs in the background. And unless we pay attention and we identify those thoughts, we're not going to be able to change it. Changing it, like saying, I'm not going to say it anymore. It's like the equivalent of, do you remember those old answering machines where we would record our voices into it and then we'd hear the messages? Changing it by saying, I'm going to change my outgoing message by saying I'm going to change it. That's the equivalent of me saying, I'm never going to say those things again. I have to literally go and record over that recording. And that requires a lot of repetition. It requires catching yourself when you're saying those things. Oh, I'm so stupid. I can't do this. I'm such a whatever. Once you catch it, you have to replace it. And you have to keep repeating it until the new words become the script that gets automatically triggered. Another thing that we really need to address is our lifestyle and nutrition deficiencies that we have. A lot of us are, again, on autopilot. We're eating foods that are not good for us. We're eating foods that are not nourishing our body, and it's not giving us the resiliency we need. We need to really focus on the fact that our gut, trillions of bacteria, are really what we're living for. They're the ones that are in control of how we sleep, how we process stress, whether we focus and pay attention, whether we're just even resilient in the face of stress. When we're eating foods that are destroying our gut bacteria, when we're eating foods that are killing that, it's like every time, like for example, when we have antibiotics, every time we have a round of antibiotics, we're throwing the atomic bomb in our gut. microbiome, right? And so it takes a while for all those bacteria to build up again. And so we need to make sure we are eating foods that are creating a culture where they can thrive, because they're the gatekeepers to the neurochemicals in your brain. The majority of the feel good chemicals like serotonin and dopamine are not in your brain. 90% are in your gut. And that's why we have this gut feeling, right? When we're anxious, we have issues with our gut. When we're nervous, we have a hard time digesting. When we're feeling calm and we're feeling at peace, that's rest and digest. When we're not stressed, our body's able to process and digest the foods that we're eating. It's able to release the feel good chemicals. So it's really important to focus on that. So the before we really get into like just the question and answer, I really want to focus and emphasize the importance of self-care and prioritizing self-care, because when we're finding ways to calm our brain down and create a microbiome that's healthy and thriving, then we are getting the feel-good chemicals. We're not as anxious, we're not as stressed, we're calmer in our reactions. So the first thing that we need to do is focus on our diet and make sure we're getting the foods that we need. So how many of you start off with like cereal or pancakes for breakfast? Who has that? None of you? That's really good, because that's part of the standard American diet. And the acronym is SAD for a reason. The standard American diet is making all of us sad. It's not nutritious. It's a lot of processed food. It's a lot of easily digestible carbs that go straight to through our system, and it's not feeding our gut bacteria. We need to start off with a good protein, a good fat, and a good complex carbs for breakfast, because we're fasting overnight, right? We haven't had anything until we eat our breakfast, breaking the fast. And so we have to eat something that's really nourishing. When we start off with a good protein, a good fat, and a good carb, that's setting the tone for the rest of the day. If I had donuts for breakfast right now, I'm going to be craving junk and sugar all day long. But if you have something like that, that's going to feed you and make you feel calmer. Exercise is really good. That's a really good goal that you have for the new year, because even walking 30 minutes a day, that's releasing feel-good chemicals, and it's creating a sense of calm in your system. And so it helps you to be more resilient. The whole exercise, it's not just a cardiovascular benefit. It's not just that it's helping us with losing weight and all that, but it really makes our body stronger to deal with the things that are coming at us. Sleep is another really, really important thing. I know a lot of people would rather scroll until late hours of the night instead of going to bed when they're supposed to. We are aligned, we're wired to go to bed and rise up with the setting and the rising of the sun. If we were, I don't know, 200 years ago, we would be going to bed shortly after the sun rises, because we didn't have electricity. Not a lot of people wanted to waste all that money on candles, right? But now with all the artificial lighting, it's keeping us up. And then the phone has blue lights that sends a signal to our brain that basically tells us that it's sunlight. And so this blue light mimics the effects of sunlight. And so our brain says, okay, no more melatonin production. So I kind of joke about how I'm very religious about sleep, because sleep is so important that we're supposed to be asleep during a certain window. Our melatonin production starts increasing as the sun sets. So it all depends on when the sun sets. But when the sun is setting, then cortisol levels dip and melatonin levels go up. So when the melatonin levels go up, that's getting us ready to go to sleep. We go into that deep coma-like sleep, which is our rest and repair. That's when our body is literally repairing itself and washing our brain. That's when all that healing happens. That window is very short. It's between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's when we're supposed to be asleep and getting that deep rest. When we go to sleep after that, we're depriving ourselves of that time. And I have a ring. This ring monitors my sleep, my activity, and so I've been keeping track. And Naima John had a party a couple of like last week, and so we went to her daughter's engagement party, and I stayed up way later than I normally do. I went to bed at like 1 o'clock, and I checked the next day to see how much deep sleep I received. My deep sleep ends up becoming really, really short after a certain time. Like if I go to bed at 10 o'clock, I get like nice long chunks of deep sleep, which causes repair. The next day I was groggier. I wasn't as focused. I just didn't want to wake up, even though I wake up the same time anyway. So it's not the number of hours that you're sleeping, it's when you're sleeping. So it's important to get that, because after 2 a.m., the melatonin levels come down and the cortisol goes up in order to help you wake up for the morning. So it's really important. And then the other thing, of course, is spirituality. And we do a lot of, I mean, we're blessed to have our prayers, our 5 times a day prayers. And that goes along with the whole having some health snacks throughout the day. I really see the prayers, the 5 times a day, as my little health snacks, where I'm able to just kind of break away from what I'm normally doing and recharging. But it's not enough, because sometimes I'm rushing through those prayers. It's an obligation. I'm not very intentional. And so we do need to still have the intentionality of some kind of a meditation when we're breathing and calming our breath down. So setting an alarm on your phone every hour to just for 2 or 3 like seconds and just taking some deep breaths, making that a habit, it forces you, because when we're stressed, we're breathing from up here. We're very shallow in our breath. Taking deep breaths is really, really important. And I know that as part of our religion, we have zikr, we have a lot of really good things that are considered meditation. But if we're doing it in a way that feels like it's an obligation or it's pressure, we're still not calming our system down. We still have to calm our system down. So it's really important to do that. Yoga stretches, I add those to my morning prayer. I have this sun salutation, which stretches my entire body. I've been doing it for 20 years. It's keeping my spine flexible. I'm already on a prayer mat. I just start with a child pose and stretch my back, stretch my whole body. Add something like that to kind of start your day. And as you get older, you're going to feel that the tightness in your body when you wake up, that really does stretch everything out. So that's something you can do. Another thing you can do is taking adaptogenic herbs. Have you guys ever tried adaptogens? Do you guys know what those are? So adaptogens are these natural herbs that are really good for helping our body manage stress. Some of those can be holy basil is one of them. Holy basil is really, really good. It's called tulsi or holy basil. It helps our body deal with the stress that we're feeling. So it helps your body to be more resilient. Ashwagandha is another one. Maca, what's the other one? There's rhodiola. There's been so much research done on rhodiola. It's an adaptogenic herb. It grows in the mountains in Russia. The Russian soldiers have done a lot of research on that to see how they can build their stamina, how they can help with the stress that they're dealing with, because it's in the Siberian mountains, of course. So these herbs, they go where your body needs it. So if you're imbalanced in any part of your body, they kind of help. But I don't want to recommend any herbs. Just because they're natural doesn't mean that they're necessarily safe. So if you're taking certain medications, always check with your doctor to make sure that you are able to take those. But those are some of the herbs that you can take to kind of help your body deal with the stressors the stress that you're dealing with. And then one thing that I've been doing is having very slow mornings, if you can manage it. Like I said, when the alarm clock goes off, just like off to the races, right? You're just like boom, boom, boom. It's like, I got to go take a shower. I got to get ready. I got to go get in the car. I got to rush to work. And it just keeps going. So if you can even wake up 30 minutes earlier, just to have like a very slow paced morning, whether that's sitting there journaling, doing some deep breathing exercises, doing, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Qigong, but Qigong is an ancient, excuse me, it's a Chinese practice where you've seen a lot of people in like Chinatown, or early in the morning, the Asians are out there doing their exercises, right? Tai Chi and Qigong. It's a natural moving meditation, which I love. I like it so much better than yoga because I can do it for 5 minutes, but it's just a natural moving meditation. There are videos on YouTube that you can follow. There's this one guy, Lee Holden. He's able to, thank you. He has this 10-minute Qigong exercise that you can do in the morning and a 10-minute Qigong exercise that you can do at night. So those are some things that you can do. Another thing that I would hope, inshallah, that you guys will incorporate into your life is journaling. Journaling is so powerful, just to have a place to just go off on the people that are making you mad. Get upset and just yell, do all of that rage, put it in the journal instead of at the people that you want to go off on. Reflect on how your day went, but also incorporate some kind of a gratitude exercise into it. 3 different things that you're grateful for every single day. Where initially, obviously, we're going to focus on our family and our health and all of that, but 3 different things forces you to focus on the littlest things that you've seen. Maybe it was a beautiful sunrise, a beautiful sunset, flower coming through a crack, or whatever, time with friends. So every single day, putting in 3 different, or it doesn't have to be every single day. I mean, I've been journaling since I was in 7th grade. So I don't need to journal every single day at this point. But now, whenever I pick up my journal, I can just put in 3 different things that I'm grateful for. And then initially, you might write in your journal, and a lot of things are going to come up, because what you're doing is you're stirring that pot, and all the stuff from that you've stuffed over the years might come up. That doesn't mean you should stop journaling. That actually means you should keep journaling until you clear all of it out. Just keep writing. It could be write it in the language you feel comfortable in, and just get all of it out, because it's not good for it to be inside of you. It actually creates a lot of stress for us if it's inside of us. But once it comes up out of you and goes into your journal, you're transferring all that energy behind those words and those thoughts into your journal as well. Then you can close it and be done with it. And then this other one, a lot of people might not be happy with me for mentioning this, but don't have coffee first thing in the morning. How many of you guys are addicted to your coffee? First thing in the morning, that's when your cortisol level is the highest. And so when your cortisol levels are high, caffeine actually increases that, and that creates a sense of stress. Cortisol is a stress response. So our cortisol levels go up when we're stressed. And when you have caffeine first thing in the morning, it's increasing your cortisol levels in your body. So if you can delay that to 10 a.m., that is going to be much more efficient for you, for mental alertness and focus. And it's less damaging on your body than if you're having it first thing in the morning. And I know a lot of people, that's the first thing that they reach out for. So instead, you can maybe have like some black tea. Black tea is a much better alternative because it has this amino acid called theanine. And theanine has this calming effect on the body and a calming effect on your heart. It doesn't create that jitteriness, but it does give you that mental focus, mental alertness that you need. So those are some of the suggestions that I have. And before I open it up to question and answer, I do want to say, if you guys need to reach me, you guys can email me. My website is transforminganxiety.com. I am doing a free coaching week towards the end of the month, where it's all week. This is what we're focusing on how to set your goals for the new year and how you can improve just your chances of sticking to them, because a lot of people set New Year's resolutions, they end up not keeping them. So if you wanted to sign up for that, you can go to transforminganxiety.com/reset and join that and come in and participate and engage in this free week-long coaching thing that I wanted to just kind of offer if you guys wanted to participate. But it's being offered to like everyone, but I wanted to make sure you guys had it as well.